Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Sante, and I work for the Big East Conference, and we'll be emceeing today's Big East University session. This year serves as our second. This session serves as our second session of the fall 2022 Big East University semester, and our focus this semester will be on the emerging space of name, image, and likeness, affectionately known as NIL. We're really excited about this semester's curriculum and hope these sessions can assist you in identifying, cultivating, and expanding your knowledge base in and around opportunities to profit from name, image, and likeness. I'm particularly excited about the slate of speakers we will have participating in today's session titled From Student Athlete to Entrepreneur. All of our speakers are former student athletes who have successfully transitioned into successful business owners. Just yesterday, they were in your shoes. Our first speaker today is Chris McCuiston, a former baseball student athlete at Michigan State University and CEO of Goldfish Swim School. Chris truly understands why engagement, well-being, and recognition matter to the overall success of an organization. To achieve this, he puts team culture at the center of everything he does, where people are inspired, valued, and encouraged to grow. He credits this people-focused approach to the success of Goldfish Swim School, growing it from humble beginnings with his wife, Jenny, in 2006, to now supporting more than 100 thriving franchises across North America, helping children to be safer in and around the water. Chris's commitment to excellence has landed several prestigious awards, including the JVS Rising Entrepreneur Award in 2015, EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017, and Crane's 40 Under 40 in 2018. His innovative approach to leadership has helped the brand land a spot on the highly competitive Entrepreneur Franchise 500, ranking in the top 50 in 2019 and 2020, and in number one in the swimming lessons category. Chris, who studied finance while he was a student athlete, has always said that his business degree has helped him with running the franchise organization. But it is beginning in an environment of people committed to making a difference that continues to inspire him. It's a great bio, and I'm really happy to be able to have you on today, Chris. We're really excited about what you have to share with our student athletes. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Yeah, Michael, thank you. I appreciate it. And, I think about my time at Michigan State and just growing up playing sports and what I can, how I can translate it into what it means if I were to go back and experience it again or share an opportunity, whether it be with my kids or friends that are going through student athlete and understanding the experience and the reward and the competitiveness and what it kind of builds you as a person. I think it's important to understand that what I learned first and foremost by being a student athlete was just the commitment to multiple different areas of being a college kid as well as a athlete on the baseball team, because I had to manage a bunch of different responsibilities. And, as far as those responsibilities were, obviously we're going to the university to get a degree. You've got a grade point that you need to keep up. You also have a team that you've promised to be a part of, to help support, promote, be successful, and commit to. So how do you balance all of that? And I think being a student athlete, one of the benefits that we had was structure. And that benefit of structure has helped me in business. And I'll explain, when we went to school, we'd wake up, we'd go to school all day long. We go to grab dinner after practice. We go to study table after dinner, and then we'd be done for the day. And what that allowed us to do was create a structure of accountability where get our schoolwork done, you go and work hard at your practice, you go to eat, and then you got your study table. So you had the accountability partner and making sure that you fulfill the obligations that you said and you promised you would fulfill, joining the university that I did. So I think with that accountability, what that's allowed me to do, especially in the world of franchising, is structure a world where you get up, you've got your business, you have your personal and your family life that you may have now, you've got your dinner, and you've got your night for homework. And so what I've looked at it as, okay, if I can train people to understand a rhythm and a cadence for, getting their work done and structuring their days so that by the end of the day, they feel accomplished, they've got a routine, there's organizational clarity. That was almost like what the baseball team was. It provided a routine for me to then translate to business, because at the end of the day, as you need to have structure, and franchising structure is critical. It's what we provide our franchisees. And if you don't have that structure, then we're just kind of going off and are we really accomplishing daily and weekly and monthly what we've set out to do, as an organization. So I think being a student athlete was critical for me. And I tell a lot of parents who've talked to me about their children that might be in high school and have the opportunity to go to a college, or a university to play sport is, should they do it? And my recommendation is always yes, because if they have that opportunity to go and they turn that opportunity down, they may not get that opportunity again. But if you go and you realize that that's not right for you, then you can always stop. You can always, quit or change course or decide just not to play that sport. But, I think, when you look at the team aspect of it and the communication that's needed for a team like baseball, where we had 33 guys, you've got practice throughout the week, you've got 52 games throughout the course of the year, you're traveling by bus throughout the Midwest. There's a lot of communication that needs to occur, a lot of teamwork that needs to happen. And there's a lot of responsibility, and everybody was given and divvied up a responsibility on the team that I was accountable for, they were accountable for. And without that accountability, if I were to fail, there would be a domino effect of other failures on that team as well. So I think what that allowed me to do is, in business, take what that accountability was and translate that to accountability for our swim instructors and for our front desk and for the general manager. There's a daily, weekly, monthly, call it quarterly and annually accountability chart that we have that says, okay, we need these events to be checked off and completed, or the next event or the next project is not going to get kicked off successfully and won't be completed, if we don't have that accountability across the entire team. So we've set up regular meetings throughout the course of the week. There's a regular meeting cadence. And so that structure that we have every week is, let's get prepared for that day, create to-dos, and then continue moving this company forward. Just like in baseball, as we knew that as we were preparing for that next weekend or that next series with whatever team we were playing, is how do you get prepared that week? It's the same as in business. You're looking forward to, if you're trying to grow your enrollment, or you need to hire more staff, or trying to hit a number at the end of the year, you got to start small. Start with what you need to accomplish this week, then maybe what you need to accomplish over the next 90 days. And then as you build on a 90-day cadence, does it allow you to get to the accomplishing what you want at the end of that year? And so, what's interesting now, and I think about it a little bit, we talk about name, image, and likeness and how this has come up. And I try to think back, is if we had that name, image, and likeness when we were going through and growing up in college and on baseball, how would we use it? What would be the benefit of that, outside of just receiving money and helping promote the university or helping promote that sport? What would you do with that? How would you use that to benefit and be good, right? I guess do good. And I look at it and go, my initial reaction, my thought probably at that time would have been, if I were able to take some money and promote the university, do I give that to my parents to help offset college tuition? Or can you use it for any sort of, I think about it now and go, would you use it for more philanthropic reasons, or would you use it to educate yourself on what a career might look like outside of college? Because, I think it's, the stat says 98 or 99% of student athletes are going to become a professional in something else, not in their respective sport. Going to play baseball is incredibly hard at that next level. And so I knew that getting a finance degree would benefit me more long-term than focusing solely on baseball and trying to become, I wanted to become the best baseball player, and I worked hard at it, but I knew that I also needed to work hard in the classroom, because that was going to probably sustain me and allow me to provide for myself and eventually a family and beyond. So, I think the name, image, and likeness is unique. It's interesting. I've always been a little bit opposed to, athletes getting paid money, because you kind of lose the love of the game a little bit. And are you playing for yourself? Are you playing for your team? That next level to me was more of like, you're playing for yourself, even though you're on a team. That is going to be something that's going to sustain you. That's your job. That's your career. Let's keep, the amateur athletes amateur and not pay them. But I think what they could do with the money now is, can they create the opportunity for them to get themselves in front of, whatever company they might be promoting in this name, image, and likeness. If it's going to help promote them getting in front of who they may want to be, or if they're going through finance, if it's a financial company that they can be sponsored by, that's going to help them network and help them get in front of various businesses that will allow them to advance their career after college is done. And so, I would just recommend, as you think through it, as you think through, name, image, and likeness, and what you can do in college, and how do you prepare for that next level in beyond sports, if that's something that you don't continue in sports beyond college, is how do you network successfully? I think what I've learned a lot is, and how I think business has grown, is networking is critical. Make as many connections as you can, meet a lot of people. And I think that's going to help, because we do what we do pretty well. Like, we teach kids how to swim and be safer in and around the water, but I don't, finance is not my forte. Marketing is not my forte. Sales is not what I'm super, successful at. But I have a lot of people that I know that are going to be great at helping me recruit, great at helping me market my business, great at helping me, work, the financial background of what we need to do and how we need to grow. And so aligning myself with smart people in those categories has helped us advance our business. And I think it would help somebody land a job is if you just network, right? Go to job fairs, or if you have an opportunity to get sponsored, try to get sponsored by a company that aligns with your values. Have a company that aligns with maybe what you want to do after college, and lines you up for a career of sustainability. So something that's not going to be a one and done, or that's going to be just temporary. A company that may be able to take you beyond and allow you to provide, once sports has concluded. And so my big recommendation, when you're in college, connect, work hard, do good, make sure that you connect with businesses, connect with companies that are like you, that match core values that you have, as well as a company that may let you continue to grow and thrive beyond college and universities.
Chris, thank you so much for your remarks there. I think that was a lot of helpful information that you shared. I actually wrote down a couple of questions just in terms of the topics that you covered. I think you definitely talked about in your bio and just over the course of your conversational remarks today, you talk a lot about teamwork, which is not necessarily something that's innate when you think of entrepreneurship, right? You think about it in terms of, I'm going into business for myself, and therefore I need to work for myself. Or in your instance, obviously working with your wife and coming up with Goldfish School. At what point over the course of your journey did you realize how important teamwork was to the overall success of Goldfish's school?
Sure. I think one thing that we learned early on, and that's when we started our business in 2006, we had, of course, that single location. And when we opened our second location, it was our first franchise location in 2009. And, Jenny and I could work within our four walls of our business and, hire, train, promote, encourage everybody within our four walls. But once we kind of had the extension of a franchisee who was relying on us to support them, to train them, to coach them, that's when we looked at, from a teamwork, from a communication perspective, how critical that was to communicate often, have a cadence for that communication. So kind of step it back and saying, okay, whether we're going to talk every week, and we've got a script for what we're going to go over. We're going to fill it with all of the topics that we want to discuss and solve, deal with those that day in that meeting, and then go forward with a to-do list of, okay, who's going to take what responsibility and solve that responsibility in that task at hand. So we really learned, once it became 2 locations and then it became 3 locations, the importance of regular communication, setting it, making sure that you show up on time, you're organized in that meeting. So we talk about tangents and landing a plane. A lot of times everybody likes to talk and pile on. It's, let's be efficient. And then from there, be really clear on who does what over the course of the next 7 days.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to our topics that we cover with our student athletes all the time, and that's talking about some of those transferable skills. I think you mentioned it in teamwork. I heard you talk a lot about routine, structure, time management, and also heard you touch on something, you didn't specifically reference it, but I feel like I gathered from your conversation about compartmentalization, right? In a variety of different ways, right? Obviously, when you're working with one particular franchise, you're working on one particular franchise. When it's time to move on to the next one, you move on to the next one. So I thought that was something cool and interesting that you brought to the table. I would ask you, is that something that you learned over the course of your journey, or did you learn that through your participations in athletics?
So it started with athletics for sure, because I knew that once I got to college, well, I was on my own. You didn't have mom and dad behind you, kind of guiding you and controlling your calendar. I had to now control my calendar. What I realized really, really early on was the importance of having structure throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of the week, and looking ahead and saying, okay, I know what I have here. I know my day is school, practice, dinner, study table, kind of rinse and repeat. I knew that for me allowed me to stay consistent, to accomplish my goals, and to make sure that, I wasn't just running all over the place. I had to be disciplined about putting on my calendar what to do when, give myself 30 minutes, give myself an hour, because I was not going to accomplish my goals, which was to get a good grade point average or achieve a good grade point average and be successful on the field, if I didn't separate those two and really calendar everything I needed to do. So I was able to accomplish and check off early on. I was one that would chip away a lot at work. So school, I needed to start early on a paper. I needed to start early on a project, because I was not one that was going to cram. So I would start a paper weeks in advance, do a page or two at a time. And that by the end of that week, or when we were ready to submit the paper, I could spend my time critiquing it, editing it, then submit it, versus trying to be under pressure and creating a paper, in 24 hours.
Chris, you're speaking to my soul here in terms of how you got to structured your whole journey, particularly your ability to balance your participation as a student athlete with the academic rigors of Michigan State. So you're speaking to my soul, and things that you're sharing are things that I hopefully our student athletes are able to take home with them. I know we spent a couple of minutes here asking questions just specifically related to your participation as an athlete. I would now want to open it up a bit more to your experience as a student, right? College campuses provide a wealth of resources to students at little or no cost, right? This is one of the only environments where, one, it's designed for you to fail, right? So it's designed for you to experience some failures in a controlled environment, but it is also there for somebody to assist you along the way in figuring out what the best path or what the best journey forward is. What are some areas or relationships prospective entrepreneurs could be developing while on campus?
Yeah, I think, we were lucky that we were given a guidance counselor, somebody that had connections to a variety of businesses in the field that you're going after. So in finance, I know I went to a lot of career fairs along the way. And early on, I didn't really know what to do. I just knew that I was supposed to go and get experience and get knowledge on what's out there. And I did that early on because I knew I wanted to go in business. But I didn't know really what. I ended up in finance, but was it going to be economics? Was it going to be something different? So I started going to career fairs early to understand what the opportunities were out there and say, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Employer, what do you look at? What do you like on a resume? What experience do you like maybe in a summer internship that gets you excited for interviewing me when I'm a senior? And so I think the guidance counselors were huge. I think going to career fairs were huge. I networked a lot with, even growing up, all the parents of the guys that I played baseball with. What do they do, and what business are they in? Just talking to my friends. What are they doing for the summer? Asking, what internship do you have? Are you going to go away to do something? Are you're going to stay local and work? I think it's just a lot of experience. It's a lot of just getting yourself out there and not staying, in a silo or staying hyper focused in one path. Is experience a lot of different industries, experience a lot of different opportunities, because that's going to give you perspective on how to make a decision going forward. So, that's I think fairly simple, but I think a lot of times I wait to my junior year, I wait to my senior year to figure it out. I would say start early and start spreading, your network right away.
I mean, you touch on a couple of really good points there, particularly in tasting a bunch of things and seeing what you don't like, right? And seeing what you do like, and what skill can you continue to develop, and what thing that you have done that you feel like you can continue to build on. So I do appreciate you sharing that bit. And I did want to say something else for the that you referenced as well, which is I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm going to say that one more time for the folks in the back. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and that's okay, right? Everything doesn't have to be determined on day one as you enter into to college and onto your team. That you could take some time to figure out what best fits your skill set, and I think that that's something that's critically important to share with our student athletes. That is okay to experience different things. It's okay to not understand or not know what the next step is, but as long as you're continuing to move forward, you're moving in the right direction. So I just wanted to say that one more time for some of the other folks on the call. I guess the next question I would ask is, kind of along the lines of your experience at school. I know you mentioned how important you felt finance was to your overall success that you're having today. I would maybe ask you a specific question. What class do you feel like you took while you were enrolled, and what class do you feel like you took when you were enrolled that you felt like was most impactful for your journey or most impactful for where you're at today?
Yeah, I think to that question, I think about a couple different classes. I think my economics classes actually were very, very important to me. There was a great foundation that was built, with those classes. And I also think communications was big. And in this world, communicating is become different, right? We have technology to communicate. We don't have to communicate with anybody. We can text them, we can send them an email. But in this world, what I've seen successful, especially in what I do, and when you're working with parents and their children in the pool, and with our staff, is do you have the opportunity to communicate successfully with them and have them understand what you're saying, right? It's a combination of like seek first to understand as an employer to say, okay, what can I understand from you? What are your needs? What are your desires with an employment with us? And then how can I fulfill that? But then also listen. And the communications helped us to ask the right questions, but to also stop talking and listen. And so I think the economics base, that foundation was huge in finance. And then the whole communication piece, which allowed us to be able to converse and talk and but also listen at the same time.
Well, that's great. Communication is definitely key, and I'm sure that's something that you had a chance to improve upon, not just through your coursework, but through your experience as a student athlete. I know that I keep tying back to student athlete, but I think that in this forum, I think it's critically important to draw upon some of those transferable skills that you have that have been exhibited in a variety of different ways. So I know we spent some time talking about you as a student athlete. We've spent some time talking as Chris as a student. Now we want to spend a little bit of time talking about Chris as business owner, right? Obviously the last couple of years has provided probably one of the most challenging environments that we've ever seen, not just from a business perspective, but from a personal perspective, right? With regards to the pandemic. Obviously in your day-to-day life, a lot of your interactions with your customers are in person, right? So maybe could you talk a little bit more about how you all pivoted as an organization throughout the COVID environment and how you all adjusted to this new environment that was presented by the pandemic?
Sure. Yeah, it was, obviously it was a very scary time for a lot of people. For us, we had our businesses shut down anywhere from 3 to 5 months once the pandemic hit. And it was not something where we could offer any takeout or carry out or DoorDash or this or that or the other. Like we were a business where you had to physically be there. So we were dark. And we were very fortunate to take on some of the governmental programs that were out there, like PPP or the auto loans, which helped us get through some of these times. But we had to lay off all of our staff outside of 2 people at our Birmingham swim school. And then at our franchise office, we had to lay off 40% of the staff. I stepped back into the VP of operations role because we didn't have anything to do and we had to survive. And so we knew we had certain critical roles that we needed to continue to communicate to the franchisees, support them, provide them with resources. So we kept a healthy framework of staff. But what we did early on was start to develop videos on what parents could do at home with their children, whether they had a pool or they didn't have a pool. We created online videos that we put to YouTube so that kids could maintain the skills that they learned. They could still go through the routines at home, whether it be, on the floor or on a couch. We didn't want those kids to lose the skills that they had worked so hard to build. And so we worked with our franchisees to help on the financing side. We helped with our franchisees to rebuild their operations manual to what it looks like or what it did look like when we were able to reopen. So obviously all the PPE that we had to wear. We had to separate the chairs from the parents. We had dividers between the kids that were built and made that were sitting on the pool deck. We had masks that all of our teaching staff had to wear, the sanitation procedures. We had to rebuild the way that we operate our business. And we did that with our franchisees, put out a new operations manual, put out a new way to market. All the images that we had throughout the course of the year had to be changed so that we had the PPE in the facility needed to show on an image or on social media what it looked like. Because a lot of times parents they would know what they knew pre-pandemic, but they didn't know how we were operating, and they didn't necessarily want to show up and see it before they brought their children in. So, we had to pivot by everything was going on Zoom or on Google Meet or whatever it may be. And, and then eventually all the training had to go remote. And then all of our support stopped for a while because we weren't traveling. Eventually we were able to get back and travel again, but it got, what we've been able to do, fortunately, has become a lot more efficient in the way that we operate, the way that we support. Our expenses have gotten more in line, where I think we took a little bit for granted that, okay, business was good and we were growing. And so yes, pay for this and buy this and let's add more people and let's do this. But we've now gotten a lot smarter with the way that we are making decisions on looking through the needs that we have as an organization, as well as the needs that the franchisees have as their organization as well. So we're not back to 100%. We're like the rest of the world. There are staffing struggles that we're dealing with. You have parents that are still worried about coming back in the capacity that we have. Granted, we've got a great environment with chlorine, heat, humidity. It's an environment that is definitely one. If you look at favorable environments for COVID, it's better than being tight with no ventilation, no circulation, no chlorine, because that chlorine inactivates the virus, which is great. So it's like, let's just spend all of our time in a chlorinated pool. So I think from there, the pivot was, it just enhanced our communication. It enhanced our expectations with each other, and it helped us to say, we actually do rely on each other more than what we think, and that we're in partnership together with our franchisees versus, here's who we are and here's who you are, and go figure it out. We do it together with them.
I appreciate you kind of closing your response out with kind of a silver lining, right? That there were some things that you took away from it, right? You've created a more leaner organization. Obviously, you experienced a ton of challenges in the beginning, but you did find that silver lining. And I think that that's really important for entrepreneurs. And something that we talked about kind of in our pre-work is that there's going to be challenges that present themselves. There are going to be challenges that come out of nowhere, and how you react to those challenges and how you pivot to the term you used, and figure out some silver linings in that and things that you could take away from challenges while you move forward. So I appreciate you kind of opening up with kind of that gut punch a little bit, but then closing it out with some silver linings that you kind of learned and gleaned from this experience that you've had, as well as the rest of the world. So I think you also mentioned something about working with your franchisees. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but you were talking about some of your franchises that are out there. I guess the question that I would ask for you is, what are you looking for when somebody approaches you about an interest in a franchise, and maybe talk about a little bit more about some of the relationship that you have with your franchise owners?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple of the characteristics of people that we see: one, they have to have the funding to do so. Each location costs roughly $2 million to open. We like individuals to come in that align with our core values. We talk about wow customer service, that extraordinary results. They need to be able to celebrate. They have to have integrity, compassion, and trust. And we talk a little bit, we want people that are humble, hungry, and smart, that are willing to partner together, that are not, they don't come in and say, this is for me. This is, I'm by myself, I'm in a silo, because we're all a part of one organization that's promoting each other. Because how one location does or doesn't do is going to affect everybody else. I don't care if you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, with social media and everything online being so easy to access these days. If you have a bad experience somewhere, someone's going to find it and assume that, okay, well, they had that there, that's probably the same here too. And so we have to be very careful that we support each other, that we're aligned together. We want people that want to follow the rules. Is you show up and we've got a system. We want you to help advance that system and make it better, bring on new vendor partners that maybe make life easier for us or for our members or the kids that might be swimming with us. So let's help promote each other to bring new ideas to the table, but you don't come in and then start going against the grain, or come in and say, I'm just going to do this myself, because you're part of a brand that needs to be aligned. It needs to, and it's only going to be strong if we're all aligned together. So I think franchisees that they come in and are wanting to be, we're not an absentee franchise. We don't want franchisees to come in and say, here's my money, train my people, see you later. I'll show up every now and then and see what happens. We want them to be involved, and whether they own a location in the state they live or they own outside of the state, I want them to be there. I want them to see the people. I want them to help build a culture. I want the ownership there to know that they have support. They have resources, not just from us, but from their owners as well. So I think what separates, us from others is the fact that we are so involved and we're engaged and we care. We're competitive. Everybody they want to see each other succeed, but I also look at numbers and go, I want to beat that person, which I think is great, right? Comes from the competitive spirit that we've grown up with sports is, I hope you have a good batting average, but I hope my batting average is better. I think that's for us, is they got to align with core values. They have to be competitive, have to have obviously the liquidity and the net worth. But I think at the end of the day is we want people to know that what they're doing is good. It's a for-profit business, right? We hope they make a lot of money, but I also hope they teach a lot of swim lessons and help promote life-saving skills, help promote saving kids. And we talk about that in and out of the water, right? It doesn't happen just in the four walls of the pool that we teach. We want you to go out to your community. We have water safety presentations. We have a mascot. Go out and promote water safety everywhere that you can in your community.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I think that there was something that I actually just wrote down out of there, is you talking about how important alignment is with your core values. And I think that that's probably something that is essential to creating a business, right? Is coming up with your core values and kind of using that as your foundation and your launching point for everything that you do moving forward. So I think the alignment with your core values was key. So I'm going to ask you just kind of one last question here. I think you shared a ton of information that is extremely helpful. But the last question I would ask you is, if you had one takeaway from folks viewing today's session, what would it be? What was the one thing you want to kind of leave folks with before we close out today's session?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned, both at Michigan State as well as in business, is just generating a network and creating a network of friends, acquaintances, business relationships. It's just networking. I think the more that you've developed a framework around relationships, connections, because whatever you do in life, you're going to have so many other parts of your life that you will not be able to do either well, successfully, or at all. There are going to be other businesses, there are going to be other people that can support you to fulfill the overall goal of your organization. If you're an entrepreneur, if you work for somebody else. So make connections, meet a lot of people, make friendships, give back, give to others. Don't be selfish and just receive. Give back and find within your skill set, within what you're good at, confident with, or can offer to others. Do that. Offer up to others as much as you can, because it is a give and take world where we need others to be successful in what we do at Goldfish. We hope to provide others what they don't know and don't have their skill set to be successful teaching kids how to swim and running a business. So I just think the networking piece is huge. Make a lot of connections, meet a lot of people, make a lot of friends, and do good and give back.